Hello, everyone. My name's Olivia Estelle, and today I wanted to talk about, can you catch entities from others? Can you go and someone can have, someone has entities, and can you catch them from someone else? Can you catch it like a bug? Do they act like viruses? Okay? Do entities behave like viruses? Well, that takes me kind of into a different topic of conversation where the answer to that is actually essentially yes, but it is because our understanding of viruses is wrong, okay? And so people tend to think that, we catch entities like viruses from other people, we are just unsuspecting, victims just standing by and someone else's negative energy attacks us. Well, honestly, even with viruses, when we catch viruses, it is because there is something that within us that needs to be detoxed, that is resonating with the viral load from wherever we catch it. Okay? And so it is that misunderstanding about viruses that I want to attribute to entities. Okay? I feel like with this misunderstanding, it kind of leaves a lot of us privy to the ego trap of wanting to put onto other people stuff that we could actually look at for ourselves. Okay? And my philosophy about this is no shame. Okay? There's never, I think that if you're shame spiraling in the world of healing or in the world of intuitive development, you're doing it wrong. Okay? So my idea is not to bring any more shame, but my idea is that it is our childhood wounds that cause us to kind of shame spiral and to attach to this idea of energy in a way that makes us feel ashamed or like our energy is low, when this is never supposed to be a competition. And there is absolutely no shame to any of this. If you've ever dealt with entities or had them attached to you or seen them in other people or whatever it is, there's no shame in this. This is all the process of healing. This is all the process of intuitive development, okay? This is part of it. This is part of waking up to saying, oh my gosh, I have an attachment, or oh my gosh, there's something that I haven't healed within myself and I've been seeing it on other people. That's how it works, okay? On the path of healing, we project first. It is just how we're built. It is just how our ego is structured. Okay? The work of intuition development is the work of separating from the ego by understanding how our ego works, right? And by putting shame aside and digging in and feeling our feelings. And that might be that we're feeling shame, and that's okay too. When I say putting a shame aside, I mean not spiraling unnecessarily in shame. And I use that because of myself, of my own childhood wounds, caused me to go into perfectionism and people pleasing and kind of codependence and gaslighting. And all of those things I work with my clients to heal and to kind of identify and push through. And like I've said before, the intuitive development path is a healing path. And so as we develop intuitively, we are also going to be hitting pockets of pain along the way that are what I call ego initiations. These are necessary, okay? They're not anything to spiral around in shame about, right? It is just information. It's good to know about ourselves. But one of the first things that happens along the path of the intuitive development or opening intuitively, or maybe even just coming in super open and living life, is that we start seeing on other people kind of what is going on with ourselves. And that can be often how it starts. Okay, so understanding that piece is I think, really imperative to know that there, as my teacher tells me, like there's nothing outside of you. And to really grasp that is a deep, deep well. That is a tip of the iceberg sort of statement. It is a deep well of information and healing that you can just keep gleaning, okay? Because it's not about shaming or blaming the self, but it is about taking energetic responsibility for things that we perceive outside of us. So, for example, well, to start, the answer is that entities from other people can only affect us to the degree that we are in resonance with that person, with that entity. Okay? That's just the truth. There is no shame in that if you're like, oh, well, I've been affected by other entities. I guess I was in resonance with dark things. Okay? Like that, that's the ego. That's the ego talking. And that's what I kind of want to just call out with this video, because there really isn't shame to this. There really should just be more like, oh, now I see like what I do. Now I see kind of what my tendencies are. And because from there, I want you to kind of look at where it was that you came across, these other, people or entities. Because really the only time that an entity can strike is when I'm doing, like when I'm having a negative thought, or when I'm in either anger or competition or some sort of scarcity. Entities love that. And when we're in those lower kind of feelings and thoughts, which we can become habit due to our childhood trauma, right? But if those are habit and we're kind of engaging in that, what we're doing is we're dipping down below the surface into the entity's sight view. It can see us when we're doing that. So it's like it could be attached to someone else, but if we're thinking, oh, well, they're about to get that and I want that, their entity, I have heard it, like their entity can reach out and just strike, because we have entered into resonance with that entity with our thoughts or with our energy of either competition or whatever it is, right? And so just know that just an ongoing discernment is part of this. And I've talked about discernment in previous videos, but we want to really take our power back by doing this. It's taking our energy back. It's becoming more autonomous by understanding this tenet that there is nothing outside of us. And because one of the first things that I have noticed when I'm working with people that have very serious entity attachments, they tend to see on me what they have going on with them. Whatever it is that I'm seeing on them, suddenly they start describing it as if it is on me. And so that's a very important thing to understand. We have this tendency, and that is one of the only ways that our ego can process sometimes what is going on intuitively. And that's okay. Like we really do kind of have to protect the ego too. Like we're not trying to shatter ourselves. And this is why I want to talk about these things, because I don't want people to go into shame spirals about them. I really want to, bring this to our attention so that we can breathe life into this and understand that the only reason why we would even project in this way is because we were projected on as shiny little children, okay? Shiny little intuitive beings. That is the only, way that we do this, and we do it to protect ourselves, right? We had to do it for survival as a child. And so now these tendencies are still alive in us for survival, because we feel we were trained to do it, and we feel like that was the only way to survive. Okay? And so I wanted to really make that clear. Another point I wanted to make is when, for example, Eckhart Tolle actually describes this in a beautiful way, and it always sticks with me. When he has done entity work and he has seen a person release an entity. This has actually happened to me, where the entity, after we do entity work and the person releases the entity, there is sort of an entity that needs to be dealt with. And so my guides will tend to teach me how to kind of deal with the entity and kind of put it back where it belongs. Because otherwise what can happen is the entity will kind of hang around and wait for something in resonance that it can attach to. And so it'll kind of try to attach to me, before I realized I needed to kind of do some more like binding work to kind of give it back, to put it back where it belongs for its healing and ascension, right? At that point, usually my guides tell me to put it kind of back into the source, into the center sun. It kind of rearranges its energy from there, and it usually requires a sort of like binding in order to kind of place it there. But before I kind of learned to do that, the entity would kind of be hanging around like, can I attach? Can I do this? And it'll start, what it does is it starts pulling up everything inside of me that is an insecurity, right? Everything, it's scarcity, whatever. And that's why when we are around people that have strong entity attachments or strong infestation, we tend to get like, ugh, it tends to start like, because it tends to start pulling up all of our stuff, right? And in this way, it is pretty actually kind of helpful, because then we're gonna be like, oh, I didn't know that was there. Okay, well, that's something, that's good to know about myself. It's good to know that's in there. Whatever it triggers in you is going to be, whatever other people, entities trigger in you, is going to be good information to have, because that is a place of healing for you, right? It's a place where your aura needs sealing, so to speak. So what these entities would do would kind of just try to attach, and they can't, if there's nothing in resonance, they can't grab hold, okay? So they'll kind of just float around, for a while in a cloud, right? And so in Eckhart Tolle's story, he walks into a restaurant right after doing this, and suddenly, this man just like starts exploding in like anger, and Eckhart realized that, this cloud or like this entity must have been hanging around until it found kind of a resonant body, for lack of a better word. So my point with that is that the healing journey and the intuitive development journey is one that we're opening to the senses of all of these things. We're opening the ability to clairvoyantly see this stuff. We're opening our clairsentience and our emotional body, or we're opening our heart to be able to feel our own feelings, right? So that it is not in resonance with entity attachments that really are, people don't get entity attachments unless there is a cry for help. And so in that dark place, the attachment is actually an entity sort of helping. It is actually like that, in that dark, in the lower astral, in the like those lower frequencies, that's what we energetically think we're doing. And so as we heal, as we start climbing up our frequency, these things will naturally fall away, right? But it is whatever we kind of still have unrecognized within ourselves, that those are still going to be where we're carrying the attachments. And really what happens is we carry the attachment based on our thoughts. We hold and keep attachments based on our thought pattern. So that is why, again, we start with meditation, so that we can understand the patterns and the habits that our thoughts take us, so that will tell us kind of what we are nurturing, what kind of energy we're nurturing, right? Because it's getting to know your thoughts will start changing your habit patterns, and that changes your energy, that changes your emotions, right? Some people need to go at it at the level of thought. Some people need to go at it at the level of feeling and the body, and but both, we kind of all need a bit of both. All right? So the answer is no, you cannot catch entities from others unless we are also in resonance. with those entities with others. And so either way, like we really shouldn't be judging other people for their entities, because if we're getting triggered by them, if we're, getting affected by those entities, it means that there is a resonance in us. And that is something, to examine. So it's like so I would really look at what the situation was. Was it competition, anger, scarcity, unworthiness? It could be all kinds of things, but really examining where that is will show you kind of what's going on, and you can trace it back to the root, which will most likely be in childhood and most likely be in past lives. Okay, that's why a regression work can be really powerful. We can go back to childhood, we can go back further into past lives and really get to the root of where this energy is coming from. Okay, and so something else I wanted to talk about, a reason that entities can also find places to attach, is often because when we have trauma happen to us, especially as children, we often suppress an emotion. We suppress our reaction, we suppress an emotion, and it's from there that we start having holes in the aura, like I say, or that's really where the entities are attaching to. They're trying to kind of relieve us of the burden of these unhealed emotions, right? It's like those unhealed stuff is almost like entities' food. And so we don't want to have a bunch of suppressed fear, anger, guilt, shame, resentment, all of that stuff is different. It's like a buffet for different entities. This is how just the lower astral works. The food source is different. So we don't want to be walking food sources, right? It's the same as you clean up, your apartment so that you don't get roaches, right? And if you've ever like moved into an apartment, that where the people didn't clean, like once you keep everything clean for a long time, you no longer really have problems because they just move on to another food source. And that's another analogy for this. And another analogy really for my original virus analogy is really, when we're really staying on top of our preventative health, we don't resonate with the detox that a virus presents. Our bodies are full of viruses and bacteria all the time. It's really when we need to detox do we start to express, right, the viral load or the bacterial load. And we will have, and especially if there's like a novel virus or if there's something, like coming in that's brand new and our body isn't used to it, it will, tend to express it. But it's going to be different for all people. And it depends on kind of our suppressed stuff. And so often, for example, if you have, say, gaslighting trauma from childhood, oftentimes what is going to happen is that you'll have what I call a pool of resentment suppressed. Because children, when we're kids, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to feel like our caretakers see and hear us. We want to feel like we are loved. And if that isn't there, if what we are expressing is being denied or gaslit, or you're not seeing what you're seeing, you're not feeling what you're feeling, all of those, kind of responses, what we'll do is we'll repress anger and resentment. We will resent the fact that we are not getting what we need. And so it's that pool of resentment that really, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be healed. It needs to be seen, felt, and released in, safe and supported ways. Often when we are adults and when we're coming into the healing path, coming into intuitive development, it's going to be those repressed things that is going to leave us as we heal, right? We'll just leave this stuff behind easily as we raise our vibration, as we start to make feeling good a habit, as we start lifting above, the threshold of the lower astral and of lower astral entities. We pop up above a space where they can even touch or even really see. And so that is where we want to make it a habit to live, to exist, to feel. And we honestly do that through the feeling of faith. We do that through the feeling, that uplifted, inspired feeling of being connected to something bigger than ourselves, our spirit guides, our higher self. That's why I harp on this so much. So all of that to be said, I really feel like anytime I work with people working with this, I really feel like if you're coming to me with these questions, you're doing great, right? You're able, to go into the vulnerability that is shame, when these things happen to you, and allow your ego to feel it, and allow yourself to not spiral in shame or suppress shame by hiding and running and pretending like it's not happening. Like all of those things. If you are coming to me with these questions, know that is amazing. That is a step in the right direction. Okay? So just honor yourself in that way. Try not to fall into the ego trap of shame spiraling, and instead be like, oh, I feel a little ashamed about that. Honor the shame that is there. Don't spiral with it. And then be like, where is this coming from? Let's find the root of this. There is a trauma attached here. Let's find it, right? Maybe you write about it. Maybe you take it to your therapist or healer, or, you're intuitive. Whatever you do, just know that this is par for the course. It's an initiation. We are meant to feel this initiation and get through it and keep going. We're not meant to feel it and then run away from it and hide and hide and hide and run and run. Okay, that's not where we want to get stuck. We want to feel this and keep going. Okay? So, wonderful. Thank you all for being here. I will see you next time. Please help me out by commenting, and subscribing. Ask me your questions so I can get to you in the next video. And I will see you in the next one. And feel free to also join my YouTube Live. The live Q&As that I do, hop into the chat and ask your questions, chat with other like-minded people that are on the same intuitive development path as you. Okay, thanks.